Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to wherever you are in the world. My name is Ada, your student therapist. Yes. So guys, how have you been? How are you doing? Yes, I know my videos are supposed to come out every Tuesday. However, some topics require further research and of course there's time constraint. And quite frankly, at the top of it all, it's just that when something isn't ready, you just, I need to do a little bit more research and stuff. But my apologies in advance for future videos that do not come out as scheduled. Either way, how are you all doing? I hope you're having a lovely weekend, or weekend in retrospect. So guys, this topic, I call it identity building blocks, or building blocks of identity in terms of blueprints, foundations, roadblocks, and all the works. Basically, rinse and repeat, okay? I'm going to figure this out in terms of the title, but I'm still on the subject of identity because it's pretty a broad topic, and not just broad in the sense of many multifaceted, but how it's like one topic gives birth to another topic and then another idea and so on. So today I'm talking about the building blocks of identity. So let's start with an analogy. When you choose what you choose or who you are, there's something transcendent or transient about, or phase-like about identity. So remember in my previous video, one of my previous videos, where I said we have multiple identities depending on the relationships that we have with other people and how we interact with other people. And interaction forms these identities. Interactions such as family, parenting, motherhood, siblings, or parents, siblings or children, grandparents, aunties and uncles, nephews and cousins, kings, clans, profession. And you could also talk about, hobbies, footballer, or even a golfer, hobby, knit, clothes knitting and all that stuff. A writer. We identify ourselves in so many ways. Let's not even talk about physical constructs such as race, okay? Then cultural identities, such, your nationalities, your ethnicities. And then you talk about gender, and you talk about age. I mean, we have millennials, we have baby boomers, we have generations X, Y, what else is there? Z. I wonder what's going to happen when we run out of that generation alphabets. So we have a ton of ways that we can identify ourselves. So that's the reason why I say identity is so broad and encompassing. But when I talk about building blocks of identity, I'm talking about how you form identity. I know I've talked about cultural identity and the psychology of identity and how we build it up. But I want to focus a little bit more on, it's like an identity is like a structure. You add cement or silt or sand, whatever the ingredients or materials, building materials are. Now, we form identities by interacting with our environment. That's like the key thing, okay? How do I call it a key thing? Well, not to minimize gene or genetics, not to minimize, physical attributes, basically, but more in the sense that the things that you build, the building materials of the identity have to do with the environment or that you interact with. And the beautiful thing about life is every point in your life, your environments change. From kindergarten to high schooler, elementary, high schooler, post-secondary, graduate school, college, and so on. Work, government work such as service, military, and so on. Or the most unfavorable, theft. These are all interaction, gang-related, gangsterism, I don't know if that's how it's called, fraud. We interact. Okay, we determine. Now here's the thing, we as human beings, like I said, we love to group, we love to categorize, because by categorizing ourselves, we determine, is this, because I told a friend of mine recently that people often think that we form groups for the sake of the group. In fact, I was telling my young brother, I said, we don't form groups for the sake of groups. We form groups for our selfish needs. That's the reason our ancestors formed groups. That's the reason. This is because I was trying to explain culture in a sense that a lot of people think culture is older than is something that you must hold dear. I'm really sorry. Culture was a physical construct, a man-made construct for man's selfish needs. So your culture came about due to your ancestors' selfish needs. I know it sounds really crude, really blunt, but it's the naked truth. I call it naked truth. Now, why so? See, this is why we have people who are not team players. Okay, it's not. Oftentimes we think team is our natural disposition. No, naturally we're not. We're self. We cling to self-preservative methods. We're not team players naturally. Our by nature, humans are selfish. You see, oftentimes because of ideologies, we seem to have turned against our nature and made it look like we're really these horrible personalities. But you see, when you have a struggle with when your behavior counteracts your philosophy, you're going to have a lot of personal struggles. That's why a lot of people always go and confess and say they're sinners. And I'm not going to go into all that, but they're very, very critical people. The fact that we're critical and it's like, this is wrong, but so many human beings are doing it. That tells you that is our human nature. Okay. The idea of righteousness, the idea of goodness, the idea of community, the idea of teamwork is foreign to us, but it is like we've latched onto it for survival, not for its goodness in of itself. Okay, let me explain. Teamwork is great and very helpful, but we did not embrace teamwork. We did not embrace community because of the goodness or the beauty or the wonderfulness of such terms. We embraced it because we're like, sorry again, another blunt terminology. We're like parasites, or not parasite, like a symbiotic relationship. At some point, we could be parasites. At some point, we make it symbiotic. Parasites meaning we're willing to kill the host for our survival. And other times, we're willing to let the host survive so that we too can survive and they too can provide us with what we need to survive. So when I talk about culture not being a selfish construct, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of, human needs, there's basic needs, your physical needs, and you talk about all that all the way to actualization and so on, which has to do with self-esteem. So how do you go from I'm hungry, I want to eat, to you're not in my league, I belong to the best golf club, I belong to the yacht club, I belong to pilot's club? How do you go from simple hunger, I belong to a group of people who are hunting and they want to eat, to a group of people who high jet setters, club bangers and closers and first class flyers and so on? See, that's the hierarchy of needs. When you look at the construct of culture, it's supposed to benefit us, okay? And when you look at group dynamics, to form a group, there has to be exchange of interests. So even just like any heterogeneous society like Nigeria, homogeneous societies are same race, same language, same culture, same philosophy. Heterogeneous, have a mixture of so many different ethnicities, philosophies, cultures, groups, and so on. So take a heterogeneous society. For it to exist, and that's why most heterogeneous societies kind of disintegrate. Again, another naked truth. Sorry, guys. Look at the Ottoman Empire. Great empire, ruled for over 600 years, and collapsed under itself, under the weight of differences, under the weight of, too big to be ruled. It's like the head before before instructions, just like take a look at a bureaucracy. Before the instructions from the head gets down, or before the complaints from the bottom gets up, time have passed. Okay, so that's what happens to heterogeneous society. That moves so many moving parts, you know, that kind of change. It's almost like if you're not able to change with the time before your entire ship, just like the Ever Given ship that blocked the Suez Canal, is so big that it cannot maneuver with, changing currents, unlike the tugboats that can quickly move in, move out, or little smaller boats that can move out when the tides are low and quickly hurry out. Ever Given needs, instructions, commands, approvals, and so on before it gets up. And then things have changed, and before it's able to make a move, it's no longer a favorable environment. So, coming back to culture, the reason why we choose a culture, Igbo culture, Yoruba culture, Fulani culture, Ibibio, Kalabari, and so on, is because a group of human beings came together and decided, okay, for us to survive, you see this lion out there, these tigers and bears, they're going to kill us if we go out individually. But how about we ambush them? One of us is going to be the bait. One of us is going to have the net. One of us is going to have a spear. Okay? Why don't we work as a group so that we catch this big animal, which one person can't eat all by themselves? If we work as a group, we're going to be able to catch a bigger target, and we're going to have everyone is going to have a greater share than, it's like less work, more meat, compared to so much effort that, then the animal, how do you preserve it? How do you keep it from theft? How do you make sure it still tastes good and it's healthy for the next day? So we form groups because if we're allowed to be selfish, this is why people step on people when they climb, and we think, oh, it's against our nature. No, it's actually within your nature to be selfish, to be cruel. So we determine it's really, really our nature, okay? But it's not that they're not choosing to work against our nature requires discipline, means delayed gratification, okay? You may want a situation where, oh, I can just do this and get away with it. It's like here's a good example that I got from Basic Economics, where you have, or Applied Economics by Thomas Sowell. I think one of them, I've read both. There's so much wealth of knowledge. Take a single criminal and a mob. A mob always instills rules in the community. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. But a single criminal is going to rob, kill, maim, whatever they want. Why? Because it's just my interest. I don't care about if I rob this person and suddenly there's, police swoop down. I might as well go to the next community. But you see, mobs or mob setups, they don't like anything or any unnecessary heat or attention to their illegal activities. So they try to maintain the environment such that no external interference or disturbance is going to disturb their business, because they need the business to go. All right. So when it comes to when someone is acting alone versus when a group is acting together, all right, same thing with football teams. One player can do all the gymnastics on the field, but the entire team can lose. They lost. And if that player moves to another team and does the same thing and the team lost, he's just going to keep moving about, but he will never have a team award, because none of the team he has ever been in has ever won, because he's always playing an individual game. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is we pick up identity based off of what will this culture do for me? But oftentimes, over time, basically, people have been made to believe, oh, culture is a thing to pass down. Yes, we're trying to preserve. It's still that preserve this group because you benefit from this group. But you see, cultures start to wane when the younger generation no longer sees the benefit of this collective, which is what is happening in Nigeria. Okay, we started out as a group, as whether we're put together forcefully or consensually. As if you're no longer able to sell this grape you're trying to sell to the younger generation, this model, this ideology, because it's usually ideologies that make revolutions. If the ideology no longer sells, it starts to disintegrate. Okay, if a group no longer believes in the benefits or the perks of being in the group, if you know, if the members no longer see the benefits of being in the group starts to disintegrate. All right. That being said, let's come to how we pick identities, because now you understand that whether you want to or not, your brain is wired for your survival. So the decisions, the choices, the types of relationships and interactions that you encourage and you select or deselect is going to be based on how it benefits you, both short term and long term, and also your how you process benefits. What is beneficial. It's like when you say delayed gratification, young children can't really process delayed gratification compared to an adult who's like, okay, I need to do 8 hours worth of job to get paid at the end of the day. A toddler is ready to skip out after 2 hours of sitting in class. Whatever you do, there's no, they don't have that concept to understand. They don't have the brain capacity to see a full 4-6 hours in class as beneficial to helping them to become members of the society. It's too far along. It's not going to work. Compared to an adult who's like, if I don't work 8 hours, my salary is not going to come through at the end of the month, and I need that paycheck. Okay. All right, guys, so this is part 1, and I will be seeing you in my next video for part 2 of the building blocks of identity. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe this video, and do share with your family, loved ones, or anyone who you think needs to hear this. All right. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.